Doug. Hello, everyone. My name's Rich, and I am delighted to be here and show you what we've been working on at Stable, and our work to transform the major risk for a $4.8 trillion industry, the food industry. Now, the food industry is made up of 2 million food companies and 500 million farmers. It is truly enormous. But as a farmer, I know they are all facing the same issue. Volatile weather creates unpredictable supply. An unpredictable supply, of course, creates volatile prices. And volatile prices kill businesses. So, we're talking about tools that could help the world's most important industry to manage that risk. And of course, sometimes it's called hedging, and it's hard. And the reason is because soft commodities are not like gold, and they're not like oil. They're very hard to standardize, and that means you can't get them onto an exchange. Less than 8% of the world's commodities are traded. And even when they are, even in a place like Chicago, quite often, as a business, you're in a different country, or you're operating in a different currency, and that creates basis risk. And they're also complex and expensive. So we make it easy. Stable has built the world's largest index insurance platform. We have over 3,000 indexes from 40 different countries. And what that means is that you, as a business, can come in and match the risk of your physical goods to a local index, highly, highly targeted. It has never, ever been done before. So here's how it works. It's incredibly simple. In this example, a food business is worried about the price going over 200 euros a ton. And in November, it went up to 210. The difference is, of course, 10, and we pay out automatically to replace that lost income. And because index insurance means all of this is agreed in advance, so our platform plays out automatically in 48 hours. So we're, of course, small. We're here as a startup, but we're backed by giants. We already are a Lloyd's cover holder. Global underwriters underwrite the risk, and some of them have invested, as well as some of the biggest players in our space. So, 4 long years of R&D, and I'm delighted to be here because really it's our official launch. In January, we go across Europe and launching in 2 ways. So we sell B2B to corporate clients, and for farmers, obviously huge cost of acquisition problem, we go through aggregators. That might be banks, that might be insurers, it might be co-ops. These people who have an existing relationship. So let's meet Sarah, and we'll see the demo of just how simple we've made it to protect your business. Okay. There we go. So, the first thing, she answers one of 3 questions. How long do you want to protect your business? So let's say August next year. The second question, how much do you want to protect? You can protect as little or as much as you like. So let's say 100,000 liters. And finally, the most important one, at what price does that cause you a problem for your business? You can move the slider to create your exact protection. And behind the scenes, our algos are pricing that automatically. You buy your insurance premium, you pay, and you get your certificate automatically. Let's go back. So, deliberately, unbelievably simple for our clients, but behind the scenes, incredibly complex. We worked for 3 years with Harvard, Liverpool, Lisbon universities to work on 3 sets of algos. We run 62 trillion simulations across these indexes to look at the historical prices, to predict what will happen in the future. But that's not enough. You also need to peer into the future. So we ingest futures markets automatically to see if there's a correlated price that can give us a better price signal and accurately protect the risk. And the final one, of course, is we need to diversify this portfolio. with over 3,000 commodities, from turkeys to trees and you name it. We have to diversify, and that's what the algo does automatically. So, a lot of PhDs, a lot of data scientists, of course, as you'd expect. But the most important thing is we have the team who can deliver this. They've joined us from hedge funds, trade houses, and some of the best banks on the planet. It's an extraordinary team that I'm very proud to represent. And of course, this does need to happen. We have a growing population, and we need to grow more with less. And the technology's there. It's coming, it's exciting. But if you're going to invest in technology, you need the confidence to place that investment. So Stable is delivering financial confidence to our clients. And that's important for their future. But let's be honest, it's actually about all of our futures. So thank you for listening.
Judges.
Hey.
Hi. Congratulations, it's super interesting. It seems to me that it's kind of analogous to a hedge that people might do on stocks or on FX.
Correct.
And I think one of the issues that at least smaller businesses have with hedges is that they're very expensive.
Yeah.
So in this case, is this affordable to sort of the smaller farmers, the smaller businesses, or is your target, bigger size organizations?
Definitely bigger farmers. We obsess over affordability, okay? So we know what they're willing to pay. The algo never shows them more than 6% of the asset price. So we have exact information about what our guys will pay. And so we adjust that. In terms of the food companies, which makes up 90% of our market, we know we can get closer to the risk. And that's what they love. It's not, if you're sat in your Heineken and you can protect what you're growing in France in malting barley, but actually 40% of what they grow is in Australia. So for them, we have an Australian index for malting barley, and we can actually help them with that precise risk.
And how do you think of your own exposure, right? Because naturally, you'll be taking a lot of the extreme swings, especially when prices go very high. Yeah. Would you hedge yourself with futures, or how do you maintain a neutral exposure?
So at the moment we don't, because what you've got to think about is our global underwriters, this is already uncorrelated for them. So this has never, ever been done before, okay? So if you've got a few billion in property and casualty and another load in auto, well, this already sits very well. But we're already shoving up a diverse portfolio before it even gets to their wider portfolio. So we have to be very, very careful. But ultimately, what we're offering is stop loss, or a put spread, or a call spread. So we're already, sorry to use derivative language, but we're already offering effectively out-of-the-money options that actually have a limit there as well. And when you spread that risk, just like a traditional mixed farmer, you are absolutely able to work on that diversification. But it takes a lot of data science. It's a huge portfolio, as you can imagine.
And it means you have to spread your risk geographically and then crop-wise pretty quickly. I mean, you mentioned turkeys and trees, pretty different commodities. Can you talk about just how you think about from a portfolio yourself, what's optimal?
So when I first started, I was obsessed because my original idea was to build this company like a traditional mixed farmer. So I was like, oh my goodness, I've got to spread it all across these commodities. But what the algo's doing is it's doing it in 4 dimensions. So yes, crop, yes, geography, but yes, time, the time sections that are protecting, and also the price. So all of those together create an enormous amount of diversification, and that's actually what we're doing. But we look after fish for people like Birdseye, wild fish, to trees, to milk. I mean, it is so diverse, it's extraordinary, and deliberately so. We never get involved in traded commodities because there would be systemic risk. Right. We are the niche, and I love being in that niche. Yeah. Any more questions?
Give us a bit more of a picture about the customer.
Yeah. So, like I say, 90% of our clients are food buyers, so we're talking already to over 300 of Europe's biggest food buyers. 10% of farmers, okay? So on the food buyer front, let's start there. Ultimately, they're either CFOs. We don't touch them if they're less than 30 mil turnover. They need to have that level of sophistication, let's say. They need to be, the CFO. As you go bigger to the Nestlés of this world, you're talking at treasury level. And we've delivered an absolute precise product for them because not only can they insure one index, but they can bolt on other indexes to create a blended index for their entire treasury department. And that is extraordinary. And you can only do that with the sheer number of commodities that we have. So not just food, but also the packaging. So we can blend it between the plastic as well as the commodity, and that creates an unbelievably targeted product.
And just a little follow-up, and how are they managing this issue at the moment?
Well, it's either you take it on your balance sheet, or you try and hedge, indirectly, and it's a mess, frankly. Like, me as a farmer in the UK, if I wanted to protect my wheat, I'd have to do that on my teeth. Well, I mean, leaving aside Brexit, that's a huge currency risk, and it goes on all across the industry. You just have these small centers. If you're a Vietnamese coffee farmer, well, the New York futures coffee price is almost irrelevant to you. So we need to get to the Vietnamese index, and that is the product that they need, and it's their real risk.
As you think about some of these larger customers, like I personally have never thought about a hedge as a product that I go into a web portal and just buy. They're typically sold and negotiated. So
Totally,
do you imagine a sales team that's doing kind of one-off negotiations with some of these customers, or do you see the web portal being the future?
So if you think about our team, so we've had the ex-head of derivative sales from Rabo joined us, others from JP Morgan, it goes on and on and on. They've done this. We have a combined experience of 80 years. And so we already know these clients. And often they've been working with them for decades. And as a good example, they might have already done, say, something like cocoa. But actually, if you're someone like Ferrero, Nutella, well, what about hazelnuts? Hazelnuts are not traded. So we are not interested in the cocoa element, but we can help them with the hazelnuts. And that's perfect for us.
Is there, everyone okay? Is there something that is implicit in maybe the potential impact of this? So commodities going less to waste, shall we say? Or is there an environmental aspect?
Well, there is, because if you think like, I pointed out about robotics, plant-based proteins, all of this. I mean, the ag tech environment is extraordinary. It's the most exciting space. I'm slightly biased. But actually, no one ever thinks about the affordability of this. If you want an autonomous tractor, yet your soya price dropped by 30% next year, that's about the worst investment decision you can ever make. So we're working with people like Syngenta to embed it into their products, or like the machinery guys, to say, hey, if your underlying revenue drops, don't worry about it. We'll cover you. You won't pay those lease repayments. So do you see what I mean? We're acting like an unbelievable catalyst, and it's all about confidence. And I love that indirect benefits.
Yeah.
Because it's huge.
And where do you get, on one of your slides, the Australia-New Zealand raw milk index. Where do you get the data for that?
Well, this is massive, because hopefully you're thinking about how defensible this is, okay? So yes, the data science, but the index is obviously at the core of what we do. So we have a team, ex-Rabo team, and all they do is actually get on planes often and actually go and get these indexes, because they're not on Bloomberg. We actually have had to go to Colombia to work with the Colombian coffee index, and that represents a huge amount of work and obviously a huge barrier. So it is core to what we do.
How do you think of potential market manipulation, especially when you go so granular?
Well, they don't, because ultimately, about insurance, you have to have this insurable interest, okay? So they have to prove to us that they have a real risk before they can come into the system. We actively, not just from a KYC perspective, we also use algos to spot if they're actually looking and changing the price a lot. And we also search for arbitrage opportunities, and that's what we're looking for in the futures markets. And if it spots an arbitrage opportunity, we shut it down. And not just that, we change the price by hundredths of a cent every time. So it's almost impossible to actually game it.
Final question. You all good? All right, give it up for Stable.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.